Alright, everyone has seen Aqua Teen Hunger Force at some point. Whatever you watch a series or saw promos, you definitely know what the series stars, free food characters known as Master Shake, Frylock, and Meatwad, often having the oddest adventures you could think of, like Dr. Wonberger stealing cookies to make a Dick McSheen to get back to his home planet. They also had his neighbor next door, Carl, who is often less than interested in them, but seemed to be dragged into their odd adventures from time to time. We all know who Carl is, or we know someone like him in real life. He basically was a stereotype of person from New Jersey who loves to live for today by eating fatty foods, watching football, and getting laid with women. But with this in mind, why is he unhappy and so bitter? Let's think about it. Back to Carl's childhood, say around 1968. His family weren't exactly ritzy. In fact, you couldn't even consider them to be middle-class family. They lived in a shady apartment and had 2 jobs. At one point, their family ate carpet for dinner. No joke. Young Carl tried to make the best out of this, often using his imagination to make the saddened scenarios a bit happier. You wouldn't say that Carl's parents are abusive or uncaring, but you could say that they were more strict and more truthful with the facts than other parents would be, whether that's for better or for worse. Carl still went to public schools despite their low funds, but they couldn't seem to find anyone to relate with. Many kids were often rude based on this scenario many times that would make fun of him because of it. Carl was completely miserable, but kept it to himself because he knew that his parents didn't need the extra stress. Carl would use his imagination whenever he was depressed because of this. Despite the fact that they were poor, Carl's family would often go out to eat at random fast food joints that was near their apartment. While waiting in line for their food to be made, Carl was fascinated by how their food was being produced. Every time they went to a fast food place, they would order the same thing every time: a medium shake, large fry, and a hamburger. Oftentimes or not, he would often take the buns off the burgers and eat the meat for itself, and even at one point tried to roll it into a ball shape, like how he saw the fry cook do before placing it onto the grill. Often because his parents would get annoyed at him for somewhat ruining his food. With this in his mind, he always kept his favorite food in his imagination. But as if they were actual living things in his mind to him, they were his best friends. And typically being a kid, he also wanted more friends, so he thought of another stuff because of his food pals, such as aliens, Olga Drope and Emery, talking objects, dummy love, or dumber dolls, and so on and so forth. Carl thought about what the food's pals' personalities should be like, and at the end, all 3 food pals each had a characteristic of himself. The milkshake character had a selfish, arrogant attitude and would often do bad things with Carl. He wasn't a horrible person, but considering that he was a kid, from time to time, he would often do stupid stuff, like swearing out of term and even act a bit cocky at times. The French fry character represented Carl's intelligence, as Carl had good common sense and did pretty well at school, despite being teased by other kids due to his overuse of using imagination at his age. The meat character represented his innocence. Carl was a sweet child who often mistook other people's meanings, and even at times can be annoying as a result of being so sweetly naive. As for himself, he actually imagined himself as a balding fat man who lived next door to the food pals. Carl thought it would actually be more interesting if the way portrayed him in his imagination was more of a jerk than a friendly in real life. That probably goes back to his father's personality. Carl's father was a pretty sleazy guy. He often loved fatty foods and watched football whenever it was on, and always loved to read dirty magazines in his spare time, to which was a degree it was a bit of an influence on him. As the years passed by, his interests in the food pals were starting to deteriorate as Carl started to become more active with his classmates and do the new things. Granted, he was an average in high school, and he often didn't have the best major in education. He claimed that at one point, he studied in elevator repair, but seemed to have an interest in computers. Around the early 80s, he worked for Atari Inc. months before the video game crash of 1983. In the months prior to that, Carl designed the new characters for a new Atari game, but because of the video game crash of 1983, the Taiken effect and the Atari becoming bankrupt, Carl was laid off in March of 1983 and said that Atari 2600 game that he was working on didn't even pass his prototype stage. Gradually over time, Carl went through the major depression, becoming bitter and lonely. He started to avoid contact with his friends and his family as he had given up on trying to be better with his life and settled for less. So over the years, Carl seemed to become very displeased with his parents and often tries not to have any contact with them. Even when his mother questions about her food and medical check not being paid. Granted, considering what Carl's gone through, he's doing pretty well for himself. He has a decent income and he's not mainly focused about his appearance, and is satisfied with receiving the basics in life. Every now and then, though, his childhood thoughts of his food pals pop up in his mind, and Carl often thinks this is over and he overtakes the decisions made over his life. So now, I bet you may be wondering how I know all about Carl. Well, recently I developed a machine that can search through the darkest depths of your brain. I found out and then knocked this Carl guy out and found a vast amount of interesting characters. With that, Carl has been brought up. I'm going to bring these characters to life so they can buy property under my name. So when my plan unravels and they all fight each other to death, I'll be able to inherit all the real estate in order to create the Insano Gym. I'm almost done constructing my Insanoflex robot, and within a few weeks, I'll be planning to sell it to Carl, and very soon, my Insta Gym will become a reality. As long as this Dr. Weird fellow isn't wacky as Carl had imagined before. Walter Mellon. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.